Yeah, I told him he's just making that up. I didn't really do anything like that. My brother said, well, I hope not, because you'd bring shame on the whole family doing that stuff. And that was all he said. I just hope you're not doing it. And actually, at the time I wasn't. I had quit. And then we'll move ahead just about a year later, maybe just over a year later, November 2001. Now by 2001, I'd started cross-dressing again. It was in August 2001 that I started up cross-dressing. You know, I hadn't done it in over 2 years, but I bought a whole new wardrobe, pantyhose and all, you know, shoes, wigs. And I was cross-dressing, obviously secretly. And well, in November of 2001, Larry, one night, he calls my aunt, who lived, you know, she didn't live in the area, part of the state that I did. My parents did. But he calls my aunt on the phone, and he had a thing going with my mom at the time. They were angry at each other, and I'm not going to get into what that was about. But to get back at my mom, he's like telling things on me. And he was telling my aunt, now this is what I heard. I didn't hear, he didn't say this to me, but he said it to my aunt. He said that, you know, I was a cross-dresser and I was gay. You know, and like nobody around would have anything to do with me, like especially his kids. He had 4 boys, 4 sons. A couple of them are older than me, a couple of them are younger. He's like saying, yeah, they have nothing to do with me. And he made this phone call at night. Well, first thing the next morning, my aunt calls my mom and tells her all this. I guess she thinks this is something just that happened recently, about me almost getting arrested in town, when really it was about 5 years earlier. You know, Larry had even told her that they had a video of me, like a police cam video of me cross-dressed at the police station. Maybe they did. I don't know. I never saw it. Well, so yeah, she tells my mom all the stuff that Larry told her. And then when I got up that morning, my mom's, you know, just really worried and stressed out, asking me all these questions. So it was actually 5 years later, about 5 years later, after that cross-dressing, that first cross-dressing outing where I nearly got arrested, that my mom found out because of Larry telling my aunt, and my aunt calling my mom. And I told my mom, I said, look, you know, that was 5 years ago. I was just doing it kind of like as a joke to see what kind of reaction I could get. So there's nothing, you know, I didn't go to jail. It was 5 years ago, so there's nothing for you to worry about. And of course, that made my mom feel a lot better. And I asked my mom not to tell my dad about that, and she agreed not to. And my dad died a few years ago, and he never heard about that, and I'm glad that he didn't. Because, like I said in a previous video, he wouldn't have been as understanding about it as my mother was. So I'm glad he never found out about that. And those are cocoa pantyhose, by the way. But my dad never found out. And when I told my mom what I told her, that kind of satisfied her. And it was all over with. But I was actually started back cross-dressing about November of 2001. That's when this guy told my aunt, and my aunt told my mom. So when Larry told my aunt, and my aunt told my mom. So, you know, after that, obviously, I was kind of upset with Larry. You know, really, honestly, I didn't care if Larry knew that I cross-dressed. I just didn't want my mom and dad and brothers finding out about it. You know, and him squealing on me like that. Well, obviously not. I didn't appreciate it. Didn't appreciate that at all. And I was upset, but I got over it. You know, I forgave him. And we got back to, eventually, later on down the road, you know, actually I would talk to him or go places with him. Not very often. So I don't want to give off the impression that I hated Larry, you know, or anything like that. Or that I was angry and bitter. I was upset for a while, but I got over it. And, you know, before that, he started spreading all those tales and stories, squealing on me. And even after I forgave him, we had a pretty good relationship. So I don't want to give off the impression that I hated him. He did some things I didn't appreciate at one time, but we had a good relationship. He was always friendly to me. He never, you know, I never had an incident where he got, you know, he started talking, you know, calling me gay or, you know, a sissy or a cross-dresser. He never said anything like that, nor did he ever say, you know, keep away from my house, keep away from me. You know, my kids don't like you because you're a cross-dresser and you're gay. He never said anything of the sort to me. Now, according to my aunt, he said something like that to her, but he never said anything like that to me. So, whenever we met and talked, I always had a good relationship with him. And it was kind of my fault for squealing the way I did. You know, because I gave him he was a gossiper, and he just couldn't help but spread it. You know, spread it all over the country, or spread it to whoever would listen. But here's something that I haven't told you guys yet. This cousin, Larry, he told me personally to my face that he didn't care if I cross-dressed. He said, I don't have any problem with it. I don't have a problem with all. No, that's what he told me. You know, even though he spread it all over, you know, gossiped on me, he told me he personally didn't have a problem with it. He said, I don't think there's anything wrong with you. He said, if that's the worst thing you do in your life, well, that's nothing. So he was kind of, he actually encouraged me to do it. He wanted me to do it. He said, you know, I wouldn't care at all if you wanted to come up to my house cross-dressed. And he told me that. He said, you can come up to my house cross-dressed if you want to. But he said, now, I'm going to warn you ahead of time, I'm going to be laughing. If I see you dressed up like a woman, made up like a woman, I'm going to probably laugh at you. But he said, if you want to do it, you can. You know, you won't get in trouble or nothing. You'll just get laughed at. And of course, I wasn't going to do that. But he told me I could if I wanted to. But that did lead to me fantasizing about doing something. You see, this cousin Larry, you know, he was an avid horse rider. He loved horses. He loved to ride, you know, go horseback riding. You know, and this goes back to when he was younger. He was in the Army. Actually, he was in the Army, I think he was in the Army like 8 years or so. He must have enlisted and re-enlisted. He was in the military police. He was stationed in Korea for a time, and he was stationed in Alaska.